Hey everyone, it's Anthony Ramos. Happy bye week to everyone out there. Today we are talking to someone that I'm very excited to chat with. She is making history. She is Miss Utah Rachel Slawson. She will be the first openly LGBTQ woman to participate in the upcoming Miss USA pageant, which will be in November. Rachel, how are you?
I am so excited for bye week and to be here.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining. It's an important week. And just a reminder for anyone out there, people that identify as bisexual, really what that means is that they are able to develop an emotional, a physical attraction to people of their own gender and people that don't identify as the same gender as themselves. So here we go. So first off, Rachel, congratulations. Miss Utah is such an amazing accomplishment. But what does it mean to you? I want to start with this moment that we're in because, it's almost November. Miss USA is almost here, and you will be the first openly LGBTQ contestant ever to be participating in this pageant on that stage.
That's true. I think it's meant something different to me at every stage of the year. From the moment I was crowned to now, it's like a completely different world. And I think part of that has to do with just how many people I've met this year and how many stories I've heard, and realizing that I not only do I represent my own personal experience, but at least to some degree I represent a lot of different kinds of people and a lot of different perspectives on sexuality, and I get to be a voice for that in a space that it's never happened before. So it's really exciting and it's really meaningful to me.
What has it been, what's the response been among, the other women that are going to be participating in Miss USA? Have you felt supported, or have there been a lot of questions? What's the feedback been for you?
I felt very welcomed at first. I remember right after I was crowned, we get put into this Facebook group with all the other contestants. And I made a joke about how I was definitely just competing so I could date all the other contestants, and that's why I was there. And everyone laughed and they knew I was kidding. And, I think that because of that, we all just had like a little bit of a sense of humor and friendship. I think, I still don't know everybody super well, but overall it's been really supportive, and I'm excited to meet everyone actually at the competition.
So this November, you will be taking that stage. Have you wrapped your head around what it will mean to be there and to really have an opportunity, to open a lot of people's eyes to the LGBTQ community in, probably a space that many people, are not familiar with, a lot of people from the LGBTQ community?
Yeah, definitely. I think that it feels like a lot of responsibility, actually. So
No,
I'm trying not to put too much
yeah.
pressure on myself, because I know that for a lot of people, this is maybe an audience of people that have never really met anyone in the LGBTQ plus community before. And so I might be their first representation of that. And that's why I'm trying so hard to really just focus on being Rachel, not being just, a contestant or just a member of the the LGBTQ community, and focusing so much on that, because I feel like the more people get to know me as a person, the more that I can actually represent my community and stand for something there.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like you don't want to get too lost in your head and get too freaked out by the history making part, not, to where you don't enjoy the actual experience.
Yeah, well, and so much so that someone doesn't meet a real person. Like if I'm just sitting there being bisexual,
Right.
You might miss out on the fact that I'm also, a lot of other things too. And I want people to kind of, understand that my sexuality is a beautiful part of myself. And I think it's something that deserves to be celebrated as beautiful, which is why I do beauty pageants. But there are also so many other pieces of me too that make up who I am.
100%. And just a reminder, this is an important week. It's bye week. Very excited to be talking to you during this time. I would like to talk to you because I know, you and I have talked, and it's important for you to identify as a bi woman. Why do you like the term bi? And why have you decided that you want to use bisexual as how you identify?
So I identify as bisexual and I identify as queer, which I feel like actually falls under the umbrella of bisexual plus. And that's an important part of my identity, because it's a part that I for so long didn't even understand or come to terms with, and I had a lot of shame around. And it wasn't until I really claimed my sexuality as a piece of my identity that I realized that it's a part of myself that deserves space too. and deserves to be, free to be expressed and free in my relationships.
I really like that. Thank you for sharing that. You know, we like the term bicon, bi icon. Are there any sort of bi icons or bicons that you have looked up to, or maybe were inspirational in your own personal coming out that helped you along the way?
Yes, I'm very inspired by Halsey. I love that she also talks about having bipolar disorder too, which is something that I also am diagnosed with. So I think the combination is, very unique, and it just shows that she's such a wide spectrum individual, and that's so beautiful to me. So it's really been a huge piece of me accepting myself more, to have people that are out in public that are, successful, and seeing them thrive in life and thinking, oh wait, someday I can also be, fully expressed artist as well.
Halsey is one of our fiercest, everything, heroes, icons. Love Halsey. Speaking of that, since you brought that up, I know mental health has been something that is important for you to talk about. So and especially I feel like within queer spaces and with queer people, mental health, especially right now with everything that's happening, there's so much, being thrown at us all of the time. How important is it for you to use this platform that you have as Miss Utah to really, advance those conversations and to just have these conversations in general?
Being Miss Utah USA, the entire purpose behind that is to have conversations about suicide prevention and mental health, especially as a bisexual woman, because my community of bisexual people is far more affected by mood disorders and depression and anxiety. And especially now during COVID, mental health has been just as big of a pandemic as COVID-19, in my opinion, because people are more isolated. There's more fear, there's more uncertainty. And, that's the entire reason I fought for this title for so long, because pageantry is historically, about perfection. And if you can kind of flip that on its head and say, not only can I win this title, and I can be imperfect, and I can struggle with these different issues, and we can talk about it, to me, getting rid of shame is my number one goal as a title holder, both around mental health and my sexuality.
You mentioned, fighting so hard for this title. And I think, you had tried out to be Miss Utah, a couple times before you won. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I know there was a point where you felt very low after one of the years that you didn't win. Can you tell me a little bit more about that time and how you were able to, pick yourself up and try it again?
Yeah, so the first pageant I did, I was very confident and ended up not winning, but it didn't really affect my self-esteem that much. I knew it was my first time. So I worked really hard. I went and got plastic surgery, which in my opinion was necessary. Obviously now as a grown adult, I realized that that was not necessary at all. But in my opinion, I was becoming what I thought people wanted to win, and becoming the kind of beautiful that wins. And after all of that, I still didn't win. And in fact, I actually did worse than my first year, where at least I won some awards for having a good personality. And I took that really hard, because I had tried so hard to fit a mold and to be perfect and to, be what I thought people wanted, and it didn't work. So after that, later that night, I went home and tried to end my life. And I had already been struggling with my mental health. I don't think that necessarily it was the pageant's fault. I think it was my approach to the pageant that really wasn't healthy for me, because I wasn't really actually learning how to be myself. I was learning how to be everything I wasn't. And, in the days after that and over the next few years, pageantry became a place where I would go to practice being even more me. And every year I came back and just tried, to think about that little girl that was like trying so hard to please people. And every year I feel like I get to find a piece of myself, even competing at Miss USA. This entire year has been so transformational for me to see, like, well, who is Rachel beyond all of the things that she's pretended to be for so long?
First off, thank you for sharing that personal story. I think it'll be inspirational to a lot of young people out there who probably have shared the same sort of feelings, that you had. I think with you being from Utah and growing up in Utah, I think a natural conversation would be about religion and faith, because I know that it can be really tricky for people that are LGBTQ who are from Utah. You and I have both done a lot of work with Dan Reynolds and the Love Loud Foundation, which obviously really aims to change the narrative of people that are, Mormon or religious in Utah and their reaction and acceptance to the LGBTQ community. So what was your experience, growing up in Utah and then ultimately, coming out as a part of the LGBTQ community?
Well, I was actually attracted to women before I was ever attracted to men. And I remember, honestly, like the first boy I really liked, I was just so relieved because I thought, okay, cool, now I can be normal. I don't have to worry about this whole other piece of myself. I can just forget about that. And now I can, grow up. And I was raised LDS, so I, saw myself getting married in the temple, marrying a man, having 12 children. That was kind of like.
Anyone out there, LDS, just remind us what that means.
LDS is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is, as a slang term, known as Mormon.
Got it. And so what was your I thank you for that story. I think it was interesting to talk about, you're feeling relieved when you're attracted to a boy. Do you have a strong relationship with your family still now that you've been on this road to, just self-acceptance and, just really being your true self?
It was really difficult at first. Right after I came out, it was a huge strain on my family. And I actually have a lot of empathy for them because I understand the paradigm they're living in. And that's a really scary thing to hear if you also have heard other things that, maybe are said about LGBTQ plus people. And it's been over the last year and a half, like working with my family, that now, my mom and brother are coming to Miss USA to watch and to support. And my mom made a rainbow mask to wear, and yeah, she may call it the gay mask, which isn't exactly politically correct, but to her it means something really special. It means a piece of her is accepting me and is really coming to terms, and that's miles beyond where she was when I first told her, because when I first told her, she literally told me she failed as a parent. So I think I've experienced a lot of heartache from and strain on my family, but I have seen that in being myself and really owning who I am, it's given my family an opportunity to really actually connect with me and to get to know me and to, to come to terms with who I am too.
That's great. And I think there's a lot of important conversations to be had about, you can be part of the LGBTQ community and still be a person of faith, because I think there are a lot of people that think that those two cannot live in the same world. And that's obviously not true.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I still am a Christian. I still go to church. I found a church that I feel really comfortable and feel at home in. And I think that is important to mention because growing up, I felt like it was really black or white. Like if I'm going to accept my sexuality, then I have to give up God. And that's not my experience now at all as an adult.
Absolutely. And, I think, guys, we are in the middle of Bi Week, which will be wrapping up on September 23rd. But truly, just like we say, Pride is all year. It's not just in June. We should be having these important conversations all year long. I think one of the topics that I think that we should talk about is, even at points within the LGBTQ community, there are people out there that think that being bisexual isn't a real thing. They think that, you really are one or the other and you can't be both. What's your reaction to that? Because obviously that's not the case.
Yeah, I think that's, my personal reaction is that I've heard those things said about myself. I've had a family member actually go around telling people that I only said I was bisexual to win a pageant. And, I've heard that rumor before because yes, it did get a lot of attention, especially coming from Utah. But, that just, it's such a hurtful thing to even question someone's sexuality for a second, because to me that invalidates an entire experience of being in love with my best friend for a year and a half and feeling like I can't tell her, or, wanting to date a girl so badly and wanting to take her around my friends and her telling me, hey, actually, I really like you, but I can't do this because I don't want people to know. And there's all of these experiences I've had where, it's challenging. It is challenging dating a woman, especially, coming from Utah. And to have those pieces questioned at all, whether that's because it was for a pageant or because being bisexual isn't real, it's taking someone's most deep, intimate feelings of love for someone and throwing them in the trash. And I just think that's unacceptable.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think, looking back, it's so interesting with the timing of this, because I think in January is really when you and I got to know each other, when your story of becoming Miss Utah and also becoming the first LGBTQ woman to win that title, and also, be going to Miss USA. And then obviously this world of COVID has changed everything so much. But I would imagine that, perhaps even more so because everyone is at home. What are some of the, things that maybe you've had in your DMs from young people who, saw your story and maybe felt seen for the first time, or maybe they felt like they could come out themselves? Or have you had any of those, deep connections with, people online on social media that have reached out to you?
Definitely. I mean, those messages that I receive, whether that's from people that are struggling with bipolar disorder or people that are bisexual or people that are bisexual in an LDS home. I mean, I've received so many messages, and I ended up actually teaching a couple workshops on self-care, which included conversations about shame and sexuality. And I've worked with people one-on-one all year long. And that is the most meaningful thing that's come out of this entire experience. Like if I could take everything and, the only thing I could keep was one thing about being Miss Utah, it's those conversations, because I know how long I felt like I was completely alone in the world. And I know how long I felt like there was no one speaking up for me. And I always, would write this down in my journal all the time. I would say, Rachel, no one understands you because you haven't happened yet. You're the person that's here to help people understand. And so that's what's helped me to cultivate my voice and keep trying to be a leader in a space where I didn't feel like I belonged, because I knew that if I didn't do it, no one else was coming to do it.
100%. Thinking ahead to November, remind everyone out there, what day is the pageant happening?
So prelims are on the 7th, and then finals will be on FYI Network on the 9th.
On the 9th, okay. So, fingers crossed. How these pageants work. There's all 50, and then there's, I think it cuts to the top 15 quickly, and then so on until we get to one. Have you thought about, fingers crossed that you make it in and there's an opportunity for you to take the stage and really talk about your LGBTQ identity? Have you kind of wrapped your head around what you might say, or something that's important for you to get across, during that moment?
I'm still cultivating that in my mind. If you get an opportunity to speak to 5, 10 plus million people, what would you say? That's kind of it's not something you just
right.
Randomly. I'm still putting a lot of thought into what I will say when that happens, and hopefully that is what happens. But I think most importantly, it's making sure that, I take a stand for who I am. I don't apologize for who I am. And I understand if not everyone understands who I am. And the most important thing that anyone should hear, whether they're a member of the queer community or not, is that you belong here, you're worthy, and you deserve to have a safe and respectful life. And I don't expect people to fully warp their beliefs or their ideas, but I do expect that we can create a world where people are treated with love and respect no matter who they are. And so I think that that's what I ultimately want everyone to understand, is that that's possible, and it really starts with us actually making a change in our real life.
Well, fingers crossed. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Reminder, everyone out there, you can check out Rachel, Miss Utah, the Miss USA pageant on November 8th. Is that correct?
9th.
November 8th is prelims, and then November 9th on FYI Network. And then everyone out there, happy bye week. Reminder to follow along on GLAAD social for everything, and make sure if you're going to be posting and celebrating to use the hashtag bye week as well. Thank you so much.